The line at GreenMart was moving slower than molasses, and I could feel every minute of it in my tired bones. My shift had ended an hour ago, but I decided to grab some groceries before heading home. The place was packed. Half the town seemed to have picked the same idea. The smell of disinfectant and cheap coffee mixed in the air, and the low hum of chatter filled the aisles. I stood at the checkout, trying not to look as exhausted as I felt. My cart was full a week's worth of frozen dinners, a couple of boxes of cereal, cat food for Mr. Whiskers, and a pint of mint chocolate chip ice cream that I'd been thinking about since lunch. It was my little reward for surviving another day in retail purgatory. The cashier working my lane, Maya, was one of the new hires. She couldn't have been older than 17, still learning how to handle the register and navigate the endless rules of bagging and scanning. I recognized the nervous look on her face, that mix of concentration and fear that came from knowing a single wrong move might get you a lecture from the wrong customer. "You're doing fine, Maya," I said softly when she fumbled a can of soup. She looked up, startled, and then smiled in relief. "Thanks. I'm still getting used to how the bags fit in the rack. No worries." "Everyone starts somewhere," I said, glancing at the long line behind me. I wasn't in any rush. After years in this store, I'd learned that patience was the only thing that kept you sane. And then, like a thunderclap breaking the calm, a shrill voice split through the air. "Excuse me." Heads turned immediately. The voice belonged to a woman standing behind me, clutching her purse like it was made of gold. She was in her mid-40s with perfect Ceylon blonde hair, designer sunglasses perched on top of her head, and a scowl sharp enough to cut glass. I didn't even have to see her name tag to know. Every employee here had encountered her type before. We had a word for customers like her, whispered in the break room like a warning Karen. "Yes?" Maya asked timidly. Karen pointed at the bag Maya was filling, her manicured finger trembling with outrage. "Are you seriously putting the bread under the cans?" Maya blinked. "Oh, I didn't realize." "You didn't realize." Karen interrupted, her voice climbing an octave. "Do you not care that you're destroying her food?" "You can't put soft things under heavy items!" "It's common sense." The customers nearby began to shift uncomfortably. I turned my head slightly and said, as calmly as I could, "Actually, I don't mind. It's fine." Karen swung her glare toward me. "It's not fine. You shouldn't have to tolerate this kind of service." "She's doing great," I said evenly. "Please, just let her finish." But Karen wasn't having it. She took a step forward, wedging herself between me and my cart. No, you don't understand. This is unacceptable. I've worked in customer service, and let me tell you, this is not how you treat a paying customer." I took a deep breath. "Ma'am, I am the paying customer." That only made her face twist tighter. "Well, if you won't stand up for yourself, then I will." Before I could react, she reached into the bag that Maya had just packed and started pulling items out, one by one, tossing them onto the counter like evidence in a trial. "You can't put the eggs here. You can't have detergent near food. And why is this ice cream next to the cat food? Are you trying to make someone sick?" The people behind her in line began exchanging looks. A couple near the magazine rack whispered something that made the man stifle a laugh. Maya stood frozen, her hands gripping the edge of the counter so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. "Please don't touch my groceries," I said firmly. Karen blinked at me, incredulous. "Excuse me." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Those are my items. I paid for them. I'd appreciate it if you didn't handle my stuff." Her mouth fell open in mock offense. "You don't have to be rude. I'm trying to help you. You should be grateful someone's teaching this girl how to do her job properly." I could feel my patience thinning. Years of customer service had trained me to smile through almost anything. Rude customers, unfair complaints, people throwing tantrums because of a missing coupon. But something about this woman hit a nerve. Maybe it was because I could see Maya shrinking, her confidence crumbling under the weight of Karen's self-righteousness. Maybe it was because I'd dealt with too many people like her on the other side of the counter. "I think she knows how to do her job," I said. "You don't need to interfere." Karen crossed her arms, glaring at both of us like she was the judge, jury, and executioner. "Oh, I absolutely do. Someone has to maintain standards around here. You're clearly not going to speak up, so I will. Honestly, this is exactly what's wrong with this generation. No pride in their work." Maya's eyes darted toward me, silently begging for help. I gave her a small nod, the kind that said, "You're okay. I've got this." Karen turned to the register and waved her hand in the air. "Is there a manager around? Someone who can actually handle this?" I almost laughed. The irony was delicious. "Mom," I said, still calm, "you're holding up the line. Please just let her do her job so we can all get on with our day." Well, she gasped, clutching her chest like I'd insulted her ancestors. "How dare you speak to me like that? I'm a customer? Congratulations," I muttered. Her voice grew louder, sharp enough to draw the attention of a supervisor 2 aisles down. "I want this fixed! I want this girl retrained, and I want all these groceries rebagged properly. This is ridiculous." Maya looked like she might cry. I can rebag them if you want." "Sir," she whispered, her voice trembling. "No, you won't," I said gently. Then I turned back to Karen, who was still fuming, her nostrils flaring like an angry bull. "You're done here. Stop touching my groceries and stop yelling at her." Karen sneered. "Or what? You'll complain to management? Be my guest. I know the manager here. I'll have her job and yours by the time I'm done." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not loud or mocking, just a soft, tired laugh that carried more truth than she realized. If she only knew. The woman's eyes narrowed. "What's so funny?" "Nothing," I said, picking up one of my grocery bags and placing it back in the cart. "Just remembering something." In truth, I was remembering the staff training manual I'd written last month, the one that included a section on how to handle disruptive customers. I was remembering the last time I'd stood on the other side of this counter, dealing with someone just like her, and how good it had felt when my manager had backed me up. Only this time, the manager was me. But she didn't need to know that. Not yet. Instead, I let her stew in her own indignation, her voice echoing through the checkout area as she demanded to speak to a supervisor. I smiled faintly, watching her dig herself deeper, every word sealing her fate for what was coming next. Because if there's one thing every seasoned retail worker knows, it's that karma always finds its way to the express lane. The sound of her voice rang through the store like an alarm bell, shrill, indignant, and impossible to ignore. Shoppers were already pausing mid-aisle, some pretending to look at gum and magazines while subtly turning their heads to watch the spectacle unfold. Karen Red, faced and triumphant, was still wagging her finger toward poor Maya, who looked like she wanted the ground to open up and swallow her whole. "I'm reporting both of you," Karen screeched, her voice bouncing off the linoleum. "This is the worst customer service I've ever experienced. Absolutely disgraceful." Maya's eyes darted to me, full of panic. She looked like she was about to burst into tears. The kid had probably only been here a few weeks, and this was her first real confrontation. I could almost see her thinking she'd lose her job before she even got her first paycheck. I took a slow, deep breath. My patience had limits, and this woman had sprinted past them, waving a flag of entitlement. The other customers in line looked uncomfortable, some whispering, some smirking, a few recording on their phones because apparently that's just what people do now. "Ma'am," I said evenly, keeping my tone professional, "there's no need to escalate this. Maya didn't do anything wrong." Karen turned on me with a glare that could have melted ice. "Oh, you're one of those, aren't you? Think you know everything. I'll have your names, both of you, and I'll be speaking to the store manager immediately." Her words rolled off me like water off a raincoat. I'd heard this exact speech 100 times before from people who thought yelling was the same thing as being right. What she didn't know, and what made this moment deliciously ironic, was that the store manager she wanted to complain to was currently standing right in front of her. I could have told her right then, but part of me wanted her to dig a little deeper. So I simply smiled. "You want the manager?" I asked calmly. "All right. Yes," she snapped, jabbing her finger toward Maya. "Someone who actually knows how to run a store and train employees properly. I'm a paying customer, and I will not be disrespected by some teenager and her lazy friend." Lazy friend, that was rich. I was still in my hoodie and jeans, the only hint of my real position being the GreenMart lanyard clipped to my keys. I always carried it out of habit, not because I wanted to flash authority, but because after so many years working here, it just felt like part of me. "Okay," I said simply, setting my grocery bags aside. "Let's get this sorted out." Karen folded her arms, lips pursed in victory. Finally, some cooperation. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my employee badge, the laminated one with my photo, name and title Assistant Store Manager GreenMart. I held it up just long enough for her to read it. Her smug expression froze mid-sentence. The silence that followed was the kind that buzzed. The kind that fills a space when someone realizes they've made a catastrophic mistake. The people in line leaned closer, sensing the shift in power. Maya blinked, then covered her mouth, her eyes widening as she recognized the badge too. I slipped the badge onto the front of my hoodie and said, still perfectly calm, funny thing, ma'am, you don't have to go far to find the manager. You're already talking to one. Karen's face went through about 5 shades of red, from flushed pink to full crimson. Her lips opened and closed like a fish trying to breathe air. You work here? She stammered. Sure do, I said, keeping my voice pleasant but firm. And since you've been yelling at one of my employees and handling another customer's groceries, I think it's time we discuss what you've been doing wrong. Her eyes darted around, looking for some kind of support, but all she found were other shoppers watching her with a mix of amusement and judgment. One man in line behind her actually started grinning. I didn't realize, she began, her voice suddenly much smaller. Didn't realize what? I asked. That she's new and learning. That she's been polite to you the entire time. Or that you've been causing a scene over something that didn't involve you at all. Karen's chin trembled. I was only trying to help. But grabbing another customer's items and yelling at an employee, I said. That's not helping. That's harassment. We have a zero-tolerance policy for that. The man in line behind her couldn't resist muttering, zero-tolerance Karen policy. About time. The people around him chuckled softly. Karen turned around glaring, but the damage was done. Her authority had evaporated. I could see her scrambling mentally, trying to salvage her dignity. But the harder she tried, the worse it got. I'll be calling corporate about this, she said finally, her voice trembling with false confidence. Please do, I said without missing a beat. They'll confirm that I'm acting within store policy. In fact, they'll probably thank me for protecting both my customer and my employee. I gestured toward the exit. Now, unless you'd like me to call security, I'm going to ask you to leave. You can rebag your groceries elsewhere. Her jaw dropped. You can't do that. Yes, I said, I can. And I am. For a long moment, she just stood there fuming silently. The redness in her cheeks deepened, and I could practically see the words she wanted to say bubbling just beneath the surface. But with half the store staring, phone cameras pointed her way, she knew better than to add fuel to the fire. With a loud, dramatic huff, she grabbed her half-bagged groceries, stuffed them into her cart, and stormed toward the doors. Her heels clacked sharply against the tile, echoing down the aisles. As the automatic doors whooshed open, she threw one final glare over her shoulder. This isn't over, she snapped. Have a great day, Mom, I replied cheerfully. The doors shut behind her with a hiss. The moment they did, the tension snapped like a string. A few customers clapped quietly, someone whistled. Maya let out a shaky breath, setting her hands on the counter as if she were trying to steady herself. Oh my God, she whispered. I thought I was going to get fired. I smiled, shaking my head. You didn't do anything wrong. You handled it better than most people would. I didn't even know you were here, she said. I mean, as a customer, technically I was, I said, glancing at my cart. But I guess I'm never really off duty, huh? She laughed weakly, the tension slowly fading from her shoulders. Thank you, seriously. I didn't know what to do. That's okay, I said. You'll deal with a lot of people like her in this job. The trick is to stay calm, stay polite, and know that sometimes it's not about you at all. Some folks just need to yell at someone. Maya nodded, eyes wide. Do they really come in that often? More than you'd believe, I said, smirking. We could start a trading card set, different types of Karens. Limited editions and everything. She burst out laughing, the sound genuine this time. The customers who'd stayed behind were grinning too, shaking their heads and going back to their business. The storm had passed, leaving only a faint ripple of amusement in its wake. I loaded the rest of my groceries back into my cart, my ice cream still cold thanks to the store's air conditioning. As I reached for my wallet, Maya tried to stop me. No, I've got your total. You don't have to pay after that, she said earnestly. I chuckled. Appreciate it, but I'm still a customer right now. Ring me up like normal. She smiled and scanned the last item, handing me my receipt with newfound confidence. As I turned to leave, I glanced at her one last time. If anyone gives you trouble like that again, I said, tapping the badge still clipped to my hoodie, just call for me. I've got the badge for it. Her smile widened. Yes, sir. Walking out into the cool evening air, I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Working in retail had taught me patience, diplomacy, and when to pick my battles. But sometimes, the best feeling in the world was watching karma clock in for its shift right on schedule.